Ladies and gentlemen, fellow seekers of truth today, I speak not merely of a cultural shift, nor of a political divide. I speak of something far more ancient, more intimate. I speak of the great inner fracture now manifesting outwardly. The split has begun, not in nations alone, nor in ideologies. It has begun in the soul of man. There was a time when we lived whole, unconscious of our divisions. But in this modern age, consciousness has dawned like firelight in the cave of the mind, and with light comes shadow. We now see what we once ignored, the chasm between what we are and what we pretend to be. The first tremor of the split begins in the dark, not the outer dark of night, but the inner darkness that we spend lifetimes avoiding. It is the part of us we deny, suppress, and exile. In the silence of our minds, behind every carefully constructed identity, there lives another version of us, one we do not wish to confront. This is the shadow. It is not evil, though it may terrify us. It is not wrong, though it may offend our sensibilities. The shadow contains all that we have rejected, our anger, envy, weakness, vulnerability, lust, selfishness, and even our undeveloped talents. It is made of those impulses that we have deemed unacceptable, not because they are inherently destructive, but because we were taught to fear or hate them. When we are children, the world begins the sorting process. This is good. That is bad. This is who you should be. That is not you. And so we divide ourselves. We wear a mask that society approves, and behind it, we bury the rest. But nothing we repress simply vanishes. It waits. The shadow waits in dreams, in slips of the tongue, in moments of irrational anger or unexplained sadness. And now, in this age of upheaval, when the old certainties are crumbling and the collective mind is restless, the shadow no longer waits. It emerges. We are beginning to see the shadow not only in individuals but in entire communities, institutions, and nations. The things we thought we had overcome, tribalism, hatred, fear, have returned, not because they are new, but because they were never dealt with honestly. They were hidden beneath progress, disguised beneath technology and convenience. But progress without integration is illusion. Civilization cannot evolve if the individual refuses to confront the darkness within. The emergence of the shadow is not a mistake. It is a necessary step in the process of becoming whole. For how can we call ourselves conscious if we know only half of what we are? The journey into the shadow is not pleasant, but it is sacred. It is the descent into the underworld of the self, the honest meeting with the parts we have forsaken. There is no light without darkness, no virtue without temptation, no maturity without confrontation. When the shadow rises, it does not ask for punishment. It asks for recognition. It asks to be seen, not as a monster to be slain, but as a brother, a mirror, a messenger. The hatred we feel toward others often tells us what we have yet to accept in ourselves. The disgust we project is a clue. The more violently we reject something outside us, the more likely it holds a secret within us. This moment in time, this split, presents us with a stark choice. Continue denying the shadow and watch it take monstrous forms in the outer world, or turn inward and begin the task of integration. It is not weakness to admit one's darkness. It is courage. And paradoxically, only those who have made peace with their shadow can be truly trustworthy. They are not controlled by what they hide. They are informed by what they understand. So let the shadow emerge. Let it rise not as an enemy, but as an invitation. This is the first rupture in the false unity we have built, and it is the first step toward the true unity we must forge, not by denying our darkness, but by weaving it into the light. We live behind masks. From our earliest days, we are taught how to appear, how to smile when we're breaking, how to nod when we disagree, how to fit in even when we feel like strangers in our own skin. This mask we wear is not entirely false, nor is it entirely true. It is a compromise, a role, a projection designed to meet the expectations of others. It is called the persona. The persona is not evil. It serves a function. It allows us to move through society with a name, a role, a way of speaking and acting that aligns with the world around us. It is the teacher in the classroom, the mother at the dinner table, the friend at the cafe, the leader at the podium. It's how we participate in the social game. But the danger arises when we begin to mistake the mask for the self, when the role takes over the soul. This is what has happened to many in the modern world. We have become trapped in our personas, imprisoned by the very identities that were meant to serve us. We curate our personalities, polish our images, and edit our lives until they gleam with the illusion of perfection. But under the surface, something is breaking, the mask is cracking, and as it does, we begin to sense the immense weight of all that we have denied in order to maintain it. This crack is not a weakness. It is an opportunity. We find ourselves exhausted not because life is too heavy, but because the maintenance of a false self is unbearably draining. We pretend to be confident when we are uncertain. We pretend to be kind when resentment eats at our insides. We perform strength while privately unraveling. This constant tension between the outer appearance and inner truth cannot be sustained forever. And now, the tension has reached its limit. The persona is buckling under the pressure. What we are witnessing today, across individuals and institutions alike, is a collapse of facades. Leaders who preached morality are exposed for corruption. Influencers who sell happiness confess their depression. People who spent years building a public image realize they no longer know who they are when the cameras are off. These moments are not failures. They are revelations. They are necessary breaks in the illusion. When the persona cracks, a strange thing happens. For the first time, the real self begins to whisper from underneath. We begin to remember things we once loved but abandoned to be accepted. We start to feel things we had numbed to keep functioning. The crack lets something in. It lets light reach the depths we kept hidden, and with that light comes a reckoning. The crack invites a question that haunts and heals. Who am I without the role, without the approval, without the applause or the identity I spent so long constructing? This question is dangerous because it threatens everything we think we are. But it is also liberating because it promises the return of everything we truly are. To allow the persona to crack is to become real. It is to move from performance to presence, from image to essence. It is a painful undoing, but it is the only path to wholeness. We cannot become fully ourselves if we remain imprisoned in who we think we're supposed to be. This moment, this collective trembling, is not the end of identity, but the beginning of authenticity. The persona will always be with us, but now it must become a tool, not a tyrant. We must learn to wear it lightly, with awareness, rather than fuse with it blindly. Let the mask crack, let it fall away in pieces and stand, however uncertain, however vulnerable, in the truth of your being. There, beyond the image, you will find a face you have not yet met, your own. As the split within the human psyche deepens, there arises a powerful reflex, almost automatic, almost invisible. We turn outward, we begin to see, in others, the very things we cannot bear to confront in ourselves. This is projection, and in times of inner chaos, projection intensifies. It is a subtle mechanism, a sleight of hand performed by the unconscious. Something disturbs us. An impulse, a fear, a wound, a contradiction. But instead of facing it head on, instead of holding it in the quiet space of honest reflection, we cast it outside of us. We find a face to blame, a group, a leader, a stranger, an ideology, anything that allows us to say, there is the problem, not in me but in them. This is how we cope with our own inner division, by imagining that the darkness lives elsewhere, but what we fail to realize is this: projection is not perception, it is a distortion. We do not see people as they are, we see them as we are. The anger we feel toward the other often masks the anger we carry toward ourselves. The judgment we hurl is sometimes the judgment we most fear receiving. The enemy we build in our mind is often an echo of the disowned parts of our own nature. And so we go to war, not just with others, but with our own reflection externalized. We see it happening now all around us, entire communities defining themselves by what they are against, conversations turning into battles, disagreements hardening into hatred. The internet, a mirror with no frame, becomes a battleground for unacknowledged pain, and all the while, the deeper question remains unasked: what am I running from in myself? Projection intensifies when the psyche is under threat. When we feel uncertain, powerless, or ashamed, we search for a scapegoat. History is full of these tragic patterns, groups labeled as dangerous, individuals demonized because they carry qualities we refuse to recognize in our own tribe, our own belief systems, our own lives. We fear the liar because we lie. We hate the manipulator because we manipulate. We resent the arrogant because our own humility is fragile. What we most reject in the world often reveals what is unfinished in our inner world, and yet, this is not cause for shame, it is cause for awakening. To recognize projection is to reclaim power. It is to admit, I have been at war with myself, and I have confused it for a war with you. It is to stop and say, what is this reaction trying to teach me about me? That moment of insight is sacred. In it, we begin to dissolve the illusion. We step out of the trance of self-righteousness and into the truth of self-awareness. We stop blaming the mirror and begin tending to the face that looks into it. The task before us now is not to eradicate projection entirely, for it is a part of the psyche's architecture, but we must become conscious of it. We must learn to pause before we condemn, to question our reactions, to ask, what if this anger is mine? What if this judgment points me back towards something I have yet to accept, heal, or integrate? In that moment, we shift from being prisoners of projection to pilgrims of insight. As the split deepens, projections will rise like smoke from the fire of the collective soul. But we do not need to be consumed by them. We can learn to look at the smoke and trace it back to the source. We can use projection not as a weapon, but as a clue. Let the world reflect what you have not yet faced. Let it challenge you, let it teach you that wholeness is not found by purging the other, but by reclaiming the forgotten parts of yourself. Only then will the enemy disappear, not because they have changed, but because we have. In a world that rewards imitation and punishes difference, the journey toward one's true self is an act of quiet rebellion. We are born into systems, families, schools, societies, that tell us what to value, how to behave, what to believe, and even what kind of person to become. From the earliest moments of consciousness, we are molded. We are shaped by culture, language, history, and the unconscious expectations of others. And in the process, something essential is lost. Our unique inner voice, the quiet call of the soul. To reclaim that voice is the work of individuation, but make no mistake, this is not a journey for the faint-hearted. Individuation is not self-improvement. It is not the polishing of the persona, not the achievement of perfection, not the accumulation of virtues or talents. It is the deep, lifelong process of becoming who you were always meant to be, beneath the conditioning, beneath the noise, beneath the inherited scripts. It is the integration of all that has been denied, forgotten, and repressed. It is the marriage of light and shadow, of instinct and intellect, of the personal and the archetypal. It is the unfolding of the whole self, and this path demands courage. Not the loud, heroic kind, but a quieter, more enduring bravery, the kind that allows you to stand in front of the mirror and not turn away, to see yourself as you are without flinching, to name your contradictions, to hold your sorrow without drowning in it, to carry your wounds not as shame, but as sacred truths, to step away from the collective current, even when it leaves you standing alone. Individuation means walking into the forest no one else can enter for you. It means letting go of belonging in the superficial sense, of being liked, accepted, and approved by those who benefit from your conformity. It means risking alienation to find authenticity. There will be moments of profound loneliness. You will lose relationships that were built on the false version of you. You will shed layers of identity that once gave you comfort but now feel suffocating. You will have to confront the internal voices that say, you're too much, or you're not enough. Or who do you think you are to live differently? And in the face of these voices, you must stand firm, not with arrogance, but with deep-rooted integrity. The path of individuation is not linear, it spirals. You will circle back to old wounds. You will meet familiar fears again and again, but each time with more awareness, more compassion, more wisdom. Slowly, what was once unconscious becomes conscious. What was once hidden becomes integrated. You begin to act not from habit or reaction, but from alignment with your inner truth. You begin to feel a sense of rightness, not the rightness imposed by others, but the inner resonance of living your own life, not someone else's version of it. This is the quiet revolution of individuation, a life lived from within, rather than in response to what is without. And this courage is contagious. Every time a person chooses to become themselves fully, they create space for others to do the same. Every time someone speaks their truth with kindness, refuses to wear a mask, or honors the path of their own soul, they light a torch in the dark for those still wandering. The individual, fully realized, becomes a gift to the collective, not by conforming to it, but by transforming it through presence, through wholeness. This is the paradox. We are not truly able to contribute to the world until we have become individuals. And we cannot become individuals until we have had the courage to face everything within us that resists wholeness. So if you feel the pull to go deeper, follow it. If you feel the weight of shedding your false self, bear it. If you feel the fear of stepping outside the known, honor it, but don't obey it, for it is in the fire of this journey that the true self is forged, not given, not inherited, but discovered. There is a timeless truth that echoes through the chambers of human experience. The outer world is a reflection of the inner world. What we see in the streets, in our governments, in the divisions between peoples, is not separate from what lives within us. The collective is the sum of countless individual psyches woven together in a vast, invisible web. When the inner world fractures, so too does the outer world. Look around, and you will see it, the fractures, the discord, the chaos that seem to pull the world apart. But these fractures are not merely political, social, or economic. They are the shadows of a deep, collective split within the human soul. Nations mirror tribes within us. Groups mirror the factions of our own minds. The enemies we fight are often enemies within ourselves, dressed in the clothing of other. This mirroring is not a curse, but a call. It is a call to look inward, to heal the divisions that breed hatred and violence without. For as long as the inner conflict remains unaddressed, the outer conflict will continue its endless cycle. Every conflict in the world, whether between individuals, communities, or countries, carries a lesson about the unhealed wounds within us all. When we judge, exclude, or attack the other, we do so because something in us is fractured, rejected, or unacknowledged. The qualities we despise or fear in others often live as ghosts within our own hearts, demanding integration. And so the collective becomes a mirror, sometimes a harsh one, reflecting the parts we refuse to face, sometimes a gentle one, offering us a chance to see and heal. The riots, the protests, the divisions, these are not just symptoms of a broken world. They are the surface ripples of the deep ocean beneath, where the unconscious storms rage. But here lies the hope. The healing of the collective begins with the healing of the individual. As each person turns inward and brings light to their own darkness, they become a beacon for others. As each person reconciles their own contradictions, they break the chains of projection and fear that fuel division. The ripples of inner transformation spread outward, like a stone dropped into a still pond, touching the shores of community, society, and ultimately the world. When enough individuals embrace their shadow, release their need to blame, and reclaim their wholeness, the collective consciousness shifts. Peace does not come from legislation alone, nor from diplomacy alone. It comes from the collective awakening of human hearts. This is why the journey of self-discovery and integration is a sacred task, not only for the individual but for the world. The personal and the collective are entwined. To heal one is to heal the other. To divide one is to divide both. So, as the split begins, remember, it is not a signal of destruction, but of opportunity. An opportunity to see clearly the invisible ties that bind us to each other and to ourselves. An invitation to meet our own shadows so that we may cease seeing them in others. In this mirror, we find the path to reconciliation, not just with those outside us but within. The fractured world is the fractured soul made visible, and the mending of one is the mending of all.